Hello, writers. I truly hope that you're off to a great start today. I hope that you're being respectful to your guest teacher and you are listening and learning from each other. We're going to start Writer's Workshop now by talking about how information writers are finishers. So, you've already created probably at least 2 chapters, some of you 3, some of you 4. And the one thing that we've left off is concluding your chapter. So, coming up with a way to close out your chapter so your reader knows that you have finished this chapter and you're ready for the next chapter. You're ready for them to read the next chapter. So, we're going to talk about some different ways that writers are finishers. They can finish the book in 4 different ways. Or, I'm sorry, not the book, the chapter in 4 different ways. And here are 4 of those ways. The first way is with a connection to the beginning of a chapter. So if you take the ending of chapter 1, maybe you wrote about early childhood, and you want to connect it to the beginning of the chapter. So kind of go back to what you were saying at the beginning of the chapter. A second is with a sneak peek at what the next chapter might be, or the next event in history might be. So maybe you're ending early childhood with a sneak peek about what happened after they became famous or as they became famous. Next, explaining why this matters today. So explaining the impact of that person. And then lastly, leaving readers with something to think about. So all 4 of these are ways that you can conclude your chapters in informational books. So today you're going to get the chance to practice these with me. The first one we're going to talk about is with a connection to the beginning of a chapter. So we can end with a way that connects everything together. So it might look something like this. This is a chapter that we wrote about Temple Grandin as a child. And this is our lead in the red. And then the blue says Temple Grandin was unique from the start. She learned that she had autism, but just because she was different didn't mean she was less. For her meant that she thought in pictures. She was bullied in school for being different too. Her family decided to send her to her aunt's farm, and she finally felt at home. It is inspiring to learn about someone that had to overcome the challenges of being different. Learning about Temple Grandin made me think about how we are all unique. I love the way she said different, not less. That really is how people should think about others. So the end here is our closing sentence, and this is me connecting to the beginning of the chapter where I said when Temple Grandin was a child, doctors told her mother to send her away just because she was different. Here it says, thank goodness her mother said no when doctors were ready to give up on Temple, or the world may have never benefited from all of her amazing thinking. So here, this ending connects to the lead. So I want you to look for a section in your one of your chapters and think about how you can connect the ending to the beginning of your chapter. And make note of that because you can try this strategy there. Let's go on to the next idea. The next idea is a sneak peek at what the next chapter or next event in history might be. So that might look something like this. Again, here we've got the red is our lead, the blue is our details, and the red is our closing or our conclusion to the chapter. Here's what it says. Did you know that Temple Grandin thinks in pictures? Her unique thinking has helped her make farms a much happier and safer place for cows. Being different for Temple meant that she was sensitive to sounds and crowds, threw tantrums, and doctors thought she should be sent away. Then she was diagnosed with autism. For her, this meant she thought in pictures and repeated things over and over. In school, she was bullied because she was different. Eventually, she got kicked out because she lashed out when people bullied her. She went to live at her aunt's farm and then felt much less stressed and much more happy. Thank goodness Temple found a place where her uniqueness made her different, not less. Because she was sent to her aunt's, she was able to invent better ways to help farmers take care of their cows. here's the closing or the concluding sentence. This is where her true training for life began. The lessons she learned on the farm, especially from the cows, led to inventions that help animals and people. So this last couple of sentences shows us what happens in the next chapter maybe, or what the next thing was in her life. That's another way that you can start a concluding sentence in your chapter. Think about where that one might fit. The third way is by explaining why this matters today. So, if we think about, again, her early life, we're going to go down and I'm going to explain how this matters today. Temple's differences eventually led to farmers embracing her research about how to better design farms, so that cows were more comfortable and treated more fairly. Today, our farms run more efficiently and humanely because of Temple Grandin's different thinking. So here we can see why this matters today. She's really impacted the way farmers deal with animals on their farms. And then the last way is by leaving the readers with something to think about. And here's how this one would work. Temple's tenacity and perseverance should be an inspiration for us all. Even when things were hard and people didn't listen to her, she kept trying and learning. If she can do it, so can you. So this last paragraph, or last couple of sentences, shows us what we can think about her as a person and how she's really affected people today and people in the future. So these are 4 different ways that you as readers and writers can think about when you're reading a biography and include in your writing pieces. So here's your job today. Your job is to think about these 4 conclusions. Which conclusion do you think will fit best with your chapters? Once you have an idea, you're going to go ahead and try to write a conclusion. That conclusion is just going to go right at the end of the chapter you've already written. So will you start with a connection to the beginning of the chapter? Will you start with or end with a sneak peek at what the next chapter or next event in history might be? Will you explain why this matters today? Or will you leave readers with something to think about? Your job is to pick one chapter today and create a conclusion. Once you've done that, you can work on finishing up your chapters. Remember, you need to have at least 3 chapters. If you get 4 or 5, that's awesome, but you need to have 3 chapters. Okay? So first, pick a chapter and write a conclusion for one chapter. We will do the other chapters tomorrow. Second, go ahead and think about what work still needs to be done to finish your 3 chapters. And then third, if all chapters are finished, you can work on writing conclusions for all of your chapters. As you work, please make sure you're staying in your seat, your voice is off, you are quiet, and you are being respectful to each other. I love the thinking that I know you're going to have today. I can't wait to see your writing when I return.